So today I got a Nintendo Switch in from a customer and it's not reading cartridges. I believe that the cartridge reader itself is damaged. Now, normally what you could do is you could just replace the whole unit with the cartridge slot soldered in. I wanted to try something different. I have just the cartridge slot component, so we'll have to desolder the cartridge slot from the PCB. We're going to go ahead and give that a try. I also wanted to take a look at something else. I wanted to put a cartridge in the new slot and see if I can measure some values using diode mode on my multimeter. That way I have a reference in the future to see if it is in fact the slot itself or the PCB. So I'm going to pull this out, we're going to put the cartridge in, I'm going to take some measurements and we'll see what we get. So I've got the cartridge slot out. I took some measurements down, and I can go ahead and put a diagram in, but I can just show you what I'm doing to troubleshoot. I'm pretty sure it is this reader. I saw some of the pins in there were bent, so it could just be like not a good connection. On pin 6, there's supposed to be a reading of about 0.5. When I'm in diode mode, I have my red probe on ground, and my ground probe, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm getting nothing, 0. And on the new slot, I'm getting about 0.5 volts reading in diode mode. So there is an indication that some of those pins aren't connecting, and I'm not getting an error code or anything like that, so it makes me further suspect that it's just not getting connected. So with this old slot, we're going to have to go ahead and remove it. So how are we going to do that? Looking at the new slot, it looks like there's 4 legs and then all the pins. I don't want to rip any pins. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to add some low melt solder just because there's a lot of tight areas. I'll start in the top, go back to the bottom. I think I'll lift up the front half first and then we'll work on the back. Maybe we could use a little bit of low heat and get the rest of that connector off, just like I did with the Nintendo DSi. So I'll heat my iron up and we'll go ahead and get this cartridge slot off. I'll be right back. So I think what I'll do is I'll start with this top corner. I will add some flux there. And I want to avoid touching that headphone jack if possible. Not too concerned about the condition of this old port as we remove it, because I'm not going to be using it again. It's a little blurry, but I'm just adding flux. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean my iron off and add a little bit of low melt to the tip. I just want to come in here. You'll see that all kind of flow in. The solder will follow the heat. I'm at 390 Celsius. Some people say that's a bit hot. For this tip, I find it's just right for what I'm doing. I'm going to do the same thing with this other side. I'm adding a little bit to my tip. I'm going to come in and touch it down. Mix it in. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth between these front legs. I'm going to pull up, release, let it cool. So you'll start to see, it'll start to separate. And I'm not pulling very hard, I just want to lift it up a little bit. You can see some of the bent pins in there. Let's go ahead and do this other side. One more time. I'm just applying light force. Okay, so that's lifted up. Now let's bring our attention to the back. There's quite a few pins back here. I'm going to add low melt to all of these pins and the back legs. Back legs are a little bit further up right there. I'm going to be cautious of this ribbon cable, not to scorch it. And remember, you know, this replacement part is a lot cheaper than buying the whole board. So if I can salvage this, it saves the customer a lot of money. They're happier. I actually make more profit because, you know, it's more labor, but it still ends up being less expensive for the customer. So they always appreciate that. It takes a little more time. That's okay. You know, compared to $50 or whatever the part costs, the whole board, it's a lot better deal for them. And I enjoy soldering. So just spreading it around, all that low melt. I'm gonna add a bit more, put it right there. I want to make sure not to get any on that connector. That would be a pain in the butt. That's good. Add some over here. Okay. Now I gotta think about the best way to do this. I might go ahead and use some low heat. I'm gonna flip this over. Let's go ahead and add some low melt to the bottom as well. Should just help with the process. Now I'm adding it to my tip first, and then I'm coming in carefully. I don't want to get too much. Because if you get too much and you get it on the board in a place you don't want to, it's going to be hard to clean up. Alright, I'll be right back. I'm going to assess this situation and we'll figure out what the best way will be to get this port off. I think I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some Captain tape over this ZIF connector and this chip. And then I'm going to hold this up with my tweezers and just heat it from the top until those legs come loose. I'm hoping it'll just drop out. Okay, so we'll give that a go. Alright, so you can see I've got it covered, I've got it masked off, so I'm not melting that plastic connector. It's for the touch IC. I'm going to come in, I have that little spot lifted, so I have a spot to put my tweezers in between. Just going to hold it like that. Go ahead and get my iron up. I'll do 350, high airspeed. I'm just going to come in, even circular motion. Go to the top. Let's see if I could. Okay, we're almost there. Let me... I'm gonna hold it from the connector. There we go. Now I wouldn't be that rough with it if I didn't have a low melt solder on there. Let's take a look. Connector looks great. Headphone jack looks great. There's a little bit of solder that splashed around, but that's okay. Let's take this back under the microscope and we're going to do a cleanup. And we'll install the new port. And add the new flux. Here's all the pins. Nothing's torn. It looks great. Let's just go over that with some wick. I'm going to cut a generous piece. Turn this. Pull this a little bit closer. All right. Nice and clean. I'll turn my ventilator up. Nice. Nice. I'm going to be careful with this one. That connector's there. I don't want to touch it at all. Very nice. Let's go ahead and clean up these pins. I'm just going to touch and release. I'm not going to rub. I don't want to rub any pin pads off. Just holding and releasing. It's going to be a little bit safer. Just let the wick absorb. And it'll be flat enough. I have yet to pull any pads while wicking. And I'm lifting the wick with the iron. So it's lifting with the heat. A little solder ball, get it up here. There we go. Okay, that's nice and clean. Let's clean up with some alcohol. And we'll go ahead and install the new port. I'll be right back when this is clean. Look at that. Beautiful. Some of those test pads have solder on them, but that's no big deal. It's looking good. Everything's clean. So let's take this new port and drop it on. And those pins are perfectly aligned, kind of no matter where I wiggle it. I don't have to worry too much about alignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this face down, get those legs in place. I'm not going to worry about alignment, just like I said, because it's already, no matter where it's wiggling, it's going to be in a good spot. I'll start with 2 legs, check the alignment one more time. I'm going to try to make it straight. I want it to look nice. Where's my solder? There we go. I'll be right back. I'm making a habit to put on gloves because it's just a better idea. Alright, got my piece of solder. Let me turn my fume extractor up. I'm going to press down lightly. That one's good. Let's go to this other leg. Where is it? There he is. Press down lightly. Oh, is that a view? There he is. Press down lightly. Good. Let's check the alignment. Looks perfect. Let's do those other legs. Need to reduce that glare. How can I do this? I need to put something dark. The white balance tries to throw it off. Okay. I'm going to add a little flux. We're going to go through this one by one. I get a better angle. Or maybe I'll add something dark to the top so I can actually see what I'm doing under the microscope. There we go. I think that's it. Okay, time to clean, reassemble, and test. All right, so we're rebooting right now. And moment of truth. Got the cartridge slots, dotted line. Plug it in. Yeah. Awesome. Let's try a different cartridge. Let's try Darkest Dungeon. Look at that. So we got a fix. And like I said, the chart with the diode readings, I'm going to go ahead and include that in the description. So you'll have a way to tell just by taking some simple measurements to see if it's the whole thing that needs replacing or if it's just this cheaper part. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, I'll have my website in the description. If you need repairs, feel free to give me a contact. I'm happy to help you out. And have a wonderful weekend.